Welcome to Voices from the Bench, a dental laboratory podcast. Send us an email at info@voicesfromthebench.com or look for us on Facebook at Voices from the Bench. Greetings and welcome to Voices from the Bench. We are at episode 106. My name is Elvis.
My name is Barbara. Once again, there's a 6 in the episode. That's my lucky number. So hopefully things will turn around for me soon.
Yeah, how lucky are you feeling today?
I'm trying. Let's just say that. With a 6, I'm luckier than I was. So not sure everybody's feeling too lucky right now. So talk to me, Elvis. How are you?
Well, today marks the beginning of the first time I've been out of work since I was 16 years old.
Ugh.
It's a strange feeling for sure. It's hard, being out of work and it not being your fault or the company's fault or anybody's fault, but it's definitely an interesting feeling.
Yeah.
The lab is closed. Summer's talking about doing a skeleton crew, but even at that point, I don't even know if I would participate in it just because of the risks.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. I really am. I've seen a lot of that on Facebook and other social media sites and, just a lot of really sad people right now, but I'm going to stay positive, and I know you are too. It's going to turn around. We're going to get back to work, and we're going to be so busy. We're going to be thinking, damn, when things were a little lighter and a little less crazy. But right now, that seems far away, but I'm staying positive.
Yeah, I can't wait for the day where we're all together at a dental meeting talking about this crazy time.
Yeah.
How foreign it will seem to us once it's all over.
Yeah. So Night Dental, at this point, we furloughed mostly everybody. We've got a small skeleton crew. Fortunately, I'm the ones that are there, and we're doing implants and zirconia. No smile designs are really coming in, but to really, hopefully not freak everybody out, but it's just shocking that we got 50 iTero scans in on Friday and 30 traditional. So I'm not sure.
That's crazy.
Out there, whether they're genuinely all emergencies or we've got some, docs that are just doing what they're doing, but it's keeping us going right now, even though it's a small crew. I'm just hoping for the best. And I miss all my employees. I miss all my team members. It's really weird driving into the parking lot and seeing absolutely not one car in there. And then I go around to the back and I see about 4 or 5. It's a shitty feeling. You can bleep me out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough. With the amount of people filing for unemployment in this country right now, there's one thing for sure is we're not alone. Everyone's going through this.
Yep.
Everyone is affected, and there's nothing anybody could have done about it.
Yep. Love you lots, all our listeners. We're with you.
Yeah, we're going to get through this.
We're really trying, Elvis and I, to keep everybody abreast of everything that's going on. In fact, we're doing it, I think, probably every weekend until who knows when. And so just make sure you stay tuned in because we're trying to keep you on the cusp of any information and all information that we can get out to everybody.
Yeah, we are joined once again with Bennett Napier from the NADL to, of course, update us on all things dental laboratories and the COVID-19. A lot of this conversation is about loans offered to small businesses from the Small Business Association. It's important stuff that all of us need to understand, even if you're not an owner.
Yeah.
And because this information changes on a daily basis, every time I get a notification that there's some governor or president talking,
crazy!
We wanted to let you know that we recorded this on Saturday, April 4th in the afternoon. So if any new information comes out after that, you'll understand when we did this. So join us for another update from Bennett. So we are joined once again by Bennett Napier from the NADL to update us on dental laboratory and COVID-19. How are you today, sir?
Doing okay. We're taping this on a Saturday, obviously. So, well, I guess, unfortunately, some of us aren't working Monday through Friday either, but so all the days blend together. But for the association, we're definitely working, trying to help members as much as we can and non-members, just to continue to help be a resource to them and, provide guidance in terms of other resources that might be available for their specific needs. So appreciate you continuing to do this as this pandemic continues week after week. I think we're all hoping, obviously, that curve comes, and sooner rather than later. We're all waiting on that for sure. So
absolutely.
Some things to update from last week's conversation, which we're grateful for you doing this. You guys have been doing a great job, as you always have, getting out information. So a few things I think are relevant just, in the last 5 to 7 days, if you will, since the last episode. Certainly association-wise, gotten a lot of questions relative to at least one of the key SBA loan options with the CARES Act, which is the Paycheck Protection Program. And just, I would say a few things. I'm not a CPA, I'm not a lawyer, which is probably a good thing. But what I would share with you is we as NADL have been interacting with our peers that run the CPA associations, as well as people that work for the banking associations. Even for them, it's been a moving target in terms of that program. I think Bank of America, I'm not sharing anything that probably people haven't heard on the news already. I think Bank of America was one of the biggest first banks that was able to get their system launched on April 3rd with some of their customers, effectively banks that are qualified to participate in that program have to opt into it, and those that have opted into it effectively, which I know has caused some frustration with some people just watching social media, is those banks that are qualified and choosing to participate in that program as far as being the lenders, if you will. They're obviously effectively providing access to those loan applications to their customers that they already had established business relationships with already. Because, obviously it's going to be a groundswell of people who would like to access and apply for the program. So they're effectively tackling their customer base first. And then people maybe that did not have a customer relationship with previous to 2 or 3 weeks ago. Not to say that those other people will not be able to get in line, but they're going to be waiting a little while till they get their primary customers. Because even though when you make the application, even some of the biggest banks still haven't been able to launch their electronic applications yet. It's down to a 4-page application, so you can look at the paper application. We've got a link to that on our website at nadl.org news page. We actually also uploaded the most up-to-date SBA interim rule on the program. It's light reading, if you will, but just to give you context of how things are changing. So the rule that got posted on Thursday was about 37, 38 pages. Then overnight, SBA, working with the banks and the Treasury, changed the rule. Now it's a 31-page document. So, my point is, there's people are frustrated, clearly, and understandably so. But just the key is just keep looking back at the different links that we've posted, and certainly the SBA.gov resource links to look for updated information. So that's important for people to look at.
So one of the things that I really appreciate and love about the NADL and our podcast is that we're getting out to so many people and so many technicians and companies that can actually go on the NADL.org site and get a hold of these links and be able to download. I just want to say thank you to the NADL and your whole team for keeping everything updated and taking all the phone calls that you've been taking for members, non-members. It's non-discriminatory, and I think you guys have done an amazing job. So I just wanted to acknowledge that real quickly.
I appreciate it. There's a couple of footnotes that I would continue to talk about that particular program, the PPP program. There are some lab owners that are trying to fill out the payroll spreadsheets on their own. Not saying it can't be done, but it's it's not easy because there's a lot of different elements of how you prepare the information once you do the electronic application, and you have to upload additional information to the banks because they'll have an approval process and underwriters that review those loan applications. I would share, if people haven't done it already, to some extent, the good news is some of the major payroll companies, if labs are using payroll companies like ADP and other companies like that, a lot of the big payroll companies have updated their reports that you can download specifically for this loan application. So they've acted fairly quickly to at least make it a little bit easier. Still not easy, but it definitely makes it somewhat easier, that they've already kind of created effectively a PPP loan application package report in their own software system. So just if people haven't already looked at that yet as a potential option, if they're trying to wing it and do themselves, especially if they've got a payroll company, I would encourage them to look at that as a resource, because that definitely can save some time and headache as you prepare stuff to submit to the banks.
Thank you.
A couple other things. Obviously, this isn't, sponsorship commercial by any means, but I think it's just important to share. There are a number of companies out there on their own accord, meaning our strategic vendor partners in the market, in the laboratory community. There's definitely quite a few that have launched free online learning like Argon and WhipMix and others. And then certainly on the webinar front, in terms of kind of like specifically focused on kind of business issues, Evident did one I know last week. I know Avaclar of Evidence doing a panel presentation webinar on Thursday of next week. I know Zod's going to do several in the next couple of weeks relative to different panelists and really focusing on how labs are coping with COVID-19 in terms of, what's happened thus far, what's happened with their workforces, what does life look like post-COVID with their customer base. Certainly Kelly Carr with LMT, they've been doing a good job putting stuff out there in terms of resources as well. So I think the good news is, a lot of people are getting on the bandwagon to at least as much as possible, like Barb, like you said, the more people that are pushing information and commentary that's hopefully, vetted, if you will, is helpful because, it's
sure.
The more people have ability to understand what's available in terms of resources and also know that they're not alone and hear, how others are dealing with what's going on and affecting all of us. And we can all learn and share from each other. So along those lines, just in the midst of all the chaos and, economic impact to us as a community already, labs, as we've all seen on social media, a lot of labs have started to get involved in supporting the healthcare supply chain, 3D printing of, personal protective equipment.
Yep.
We've gotten a lot of questions. SafeLinks Consulting's got a lot of questions in the last week on what do they need to do in terms of potentially what are some of the FDA compliance elements that might come with that. I mean, the good news is labs locally in some cases have gotten some good media coverage about what they're doing, which is fantastic to just show how quickly our creative workforce and owners have been able to pivot and kind of use the technology we have for a broader purpose, which is fantastic.
Yep.
There are, unfortunately, as there always are, in some cases, regulatory elements that need to be considered. So NADL on Wednesday of this coming week will be hosting another webinar, our Wednesday webinar on April 8th with SafeLink will be participating with us, really just talking about kind of business considerations as labs are either doing it or considering, printing face masks, respirators, nasal swabs. What are the different business considerations, especially if they're a lab that's not already doing something that already required them to register with FDA, kind of talk through that process. So we've gotten a lot of calls about that. So our goal is to at least help them walk through the question and answer based on the types of devices that they might be potentially considering printing, and then talk through some of the compliance elements, whether it's labeling issues. Are they sending certain things to a centralized manufacturing facility based on?
I was going to ask you that. Are they? Excuse me for interrupting you, but I've seen a lot of people on Facebook that are doing that. Do you know how they're doing that? Are they just delivering them to the hospitals, or is it some sort of organized effort? I know a lot of them are carbon printers, which I'm not pushing carbon, but I think it's been amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen certainly Form Labs and Envision Tech also pushing it out there as well. To name a couple, just at least the ones I've seen. So, I mean, I think, Barb, to answer your question, I think it's a little bit of both, depending on who they're partnering with in terms of the printing technology. I think that's our biggest issue from a webinar standpoint is it's no different than the FDA things we've NADL's covered in the past in the sense of it kind of comes down to what's the class of device that you're making. Are you working with, is it 510K cleared based on the partner that you're working with for that particular purpose and for your particular setting? We just want to help people walk through those questions so that they're making an informed decision. I mean, clearly, in an ideal world, everybody in our community that has a printer could just, flip the switch and say, let's go do this to help.
Yep, exactly.
Help mankind, but we also just want to make sure people are cognizant of any potential compliance issues that might come with that. And our goal is just to share the information and help people make informed decisions as they're walking through this.
Sounds great. Thanks.
It's a good thing that labs are doing out there.
I love it.
Really
yeah,
is.
No, absolutely.
It's too bad that you have to hit regulation to get it done, but I guess I understand that.
It's always that way, unfortunately. Yeah, like I said, I mean, just community spirit was great. Just obviously we all follow social media and just seeing people talking about how they're trying to help others and stuff like that. That's try to find the silver lining in these kind of situations. And our community is really stepping up in a lot of ways, big ways, small ways. And so it's just good to see that.
Does the NADL have a bead on how many labs are actually closed right now because of this?
Yeah, it's anecdotal, and when you say closed, I mean, I'm assuming, Elvis, you're talking about kind of like temporary closure.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm hoping no one's closed for good yet.
Yeah, no,
I don't even want to use the word yet, but I hope no one's closed for good.
Yeah.
I do know that work is down, and I'm wondering how many are working with the skeleton crew compared to shutting doors until we get through this.
Yeah, I think each day and each week that goes by, that number is increasing. I don't want to mention names because, just for obvious reasons, but I mean, just talking to some of the manufacturers over the last week, the telltale sign is what they're used to shipping out and what their shipments have gone down to.
Sure.
Really tells the story. So I think, quite frankly, Elvis, to your point, I think certainly outside of owners or managers, or like you said, a skeleton crew, if they're, maybe printing PPE equipment, I'd say certainly by the end of last week, April 3rd, if you will, it seems to be most labs are pretty much, like you said, very small workforce, whether they've done furloughs or in some cases layoffs based on their own specific business environment. Most everybody is certainly at a very skeleton crew.
Yeah.
Whether it's both economic based and as well as
work based, volume based.
Yeah. So I think in talking to the manufacturers, that's our biggest telling sign, because that's the window for us to see like how much work is actually being done from a traditional sense. And it's basically kind of went off a cliff by the end of last week. And most of the big manufacturers, big and small, their orders, as you would expect, and we're all in the supply chain together, their daily shipments are probably, in some cases, 90% down compared to a normal day. That tells us kind of the answer to your question, Elvis.
Yeah, it's the spider web of activity. Everybody we know, everybody that sponsors us, all of the people that have been just, implants, you name it, implants, porcelain, zirconia, everything's just gone. They're down. I should say down. I will be positive. Right. We actually are getting, it's funny. It's not funny, but it's surprising. Night Dental did a furlough, and we definitely reduced, and we have a skeleton crew, and we're seeing the DSOs that are still scanning patients. We got 50 scans in, amazingly, on Friday.
Wow.
I'm stunned by it from all over the country. So I'm just not sure. I'm staying optimistic only because I can right now, but it's kind of surprising, even with the ADA recommendations and all of the governors and everything saying shut down and only emergencies. And we have quite a few clients still prepping. Just something positive to say, actually.
Yeah, the ADA just a couple of days ago increased their recommendation for emergency-only patients till, I think...
May. I saw May 5th May 1st. Or around May, yeah.
That's really the tell sign of our industry right there.
Right now, anyways. So let's see. What about labs doing PPE?
The N95 is a Class 2 device, just from an FDA standpoint. Swabs are a Class 1 device. On our Wednesday webinar, we'll kind of cover the different elements of consideration for different types of devices based on their classification. Certainly just in an overall sense, again, this is not necessarily news that people haven't seen, but definitely an expectation that Congress will probably have another phase of economic relief for small businesses that will come forward towards the end of April, early May.
Yeah.
What those programs look like, if there'll be an expansion of funding for existing programs that they've already put into force, or, some new ones, remains to be seen. But I think there's definitely a high predictability that we'll see another phase relative to this. I know several people have posted questions about business interruption insurance and, whether their policies are going to cover COVID-related, business interruption claims. I think that's a whole nother topic in and of itself. If we're able to maybe get a subject matter expert from the insurance market to do a webinar, we'll try to do that. But I think at this stage, based on what we know, and again, we're an association, so we go to associations just like people come to us, because we go to the associations in those markets. They're the bellwether for their own sector. And I think conventional wisdom at this stage is most carriers are not going to probably cover claims for this, and mainly just because they weren't funded, if you will, for this level of potential claim activity. I mean, this is not a hurricane, this is not an earthquake, this is not a wildfire, which those are bad in and of themselves, but they're usually regionalized. I mean, this is global.
Yeah.
If they started to do that, basically every insurance carrier in the free world would be bankrupt if they did that. I'm not saying we don't want to be able to use that coverage for that purpose. Just talking about the economic reality as it's probably pretty unlikely that people are going to be able to get claims in that sense.
Well, on behalf of Elvis and I think it's amazing that we keep having you on the podcast so we can spread as much information as possible and get it out to as many people as possible. So, I appreciate your time. I know it's been a rough couple of weeks, actually, probably 2 months, but it's just getting harder and harder. But we're going to come out of it, and we're going to be more, and we're going to be harder and greater and stronger.
Yeah, I was going to say we're going to have to stop meeting like this, but
yeah.
I think we'll probably be doing it for a few weeks more. But
yeah. Awesome. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Bennett.
Thank you both, Elvis and Barb. Appreciate it. And best to you and your families. Thank you.
And thank you to you and your team.
Thank you so much.
Quite welcome. We're glad to do it.
All right. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks again, Bennett and the NADL, for all that you guys do and all the information that you're getting out there to help us get through this. Remember, everybody, check out this episode's show notes for a link discussed and to like the NADL Facebook page for up-to-date information. So, Elvis and I would like to take everybody back to a time when we could all gather together in a room without fear, maybe a little fireball, not worry about somebody coughing. Back in January, when Elvis and I had the opportunity, again, thanks to Kettenbach, to go to Scottsdale, Arizona and record at the Voices of Dentistry Summit. While there, we met awesome, cool dental assistant that just happened to be recording her podcast right next to ours. Ronda Holman. We end up interviewing each other as we talk about how important the relationship is between the dental lab and the dental assistant. Then we ran into Danny Vezmar from Dentsply Sirona, who has been with the company long before Sirona. He is now the new marketing director in the laboratory division and sits down with us to talk about his view of our industry and what they are doing to work with labs. It's funny, Elvis, when we did all of this, it was way before, or a little bit before the coronavirus, and to think about what's going on and what was back then, it almost seems like old information, and I'm not saying that negatively, but it's like maybe we should call these guys and ask them what they're doing now.
I know.
Just saying.
It's odd.
So, yay, join us with Rhonda and Danny. Enjoy.
Barb, I got a call from a doctor who's looking for a new lab.
What? That's awesome. Did they start to send you work yet?
Yeah. But unfortunately, her impressions are terrible. Missed margins, distortions all over. I don't know what to do.
Well, she's probably looking for a new lab because the last lab stopped taking her impressions. Bad dentists, they go from lab to lab to lab.
Yeah, that's probably what she's doing. But I just got this account. I don't want to lose it. When I talked to her, I asked what impression material she was using, and it was some brand I've never heard of.
Yeah, there's a lot of crappy impressions out there. I don't understand why offices use cheaper materials to save money up front, but in the end, it ends up costing them twice as much, and with all the remakes for us and for them that they end up doing. And, we got to eat the remake costs.
Yeah, that's so true. I really wish I could find an impression company I could rely on for help, and the doctors can get the help they need for us to get the records we need.
So there you have it. Check out Kettenbach. This German-manufactured impression material is taking the U.S. by storm. Not only do they use top-notch patented technology, but they have a dedicated customer service team that will work with your accounts, which is amazing.
Interesting. So do I just call the doctor and tell her to switch? What if she doesn't want to?
Well, you know how doctors are. Most of them are pretty open and say, hey, if I can do better, please let me know. So if I was you, I would tell her to call Kettenbach Direct. Give her the number of 877-532-2123. They've actually got a $99 starter kit. They will put her in touch with a local rep. And they also have a lot of materials that labs use every day, like the Panacell Lab Putty Hard and Lab Putty Soft. They've got soft reline. They've got bite registration material. And when a lab orders, guys, listen up, 25% off your first order. All you have to do is mention the code Dental Lab Podcast 25. Plus, they sell direct, so there are even more savings.
Whoa, wait a minute. I've heard about that lab putty. We use it here in our lab. I didn't even realize it was made by Kettenbach. That is amazing lab putty that our technicians love. I'm going to check out Kettenbach-dental.us right now and then call my new doctor.
So, just hearing Elvis say it's an amazing lab putty, there you go. There's a super awesome recommendation. So, call him.
Thanks for your support of the podcast, Kettenbach.
Thank you.
Voices from the Bench. The interview.
We can drink it at 11 a.m. and nobody will yell at us because everybody else is.
Tastes like cough syrup.
It does.
It is cough syrup.
Oh, well.
It's not
it's
cough
perfect.
syrup.
Awesome.
Okay, so.
You can continue to line up.
Uh-oh. That hasn't happened at all, but
Oh, it's me.
Oh.
I'm a magician. Look.
It is, actually. Maybe it's the metal.
Yeah, it went away.
Or not.
Oh.
You know what?
Could have been a coincidence.
That buzz has happened at almost every event except for this one. Until you sat down.
Wow, you must be special. You've
I
got
get that a
special
lot.
energy. You're recording?
Like,
Good.
My
you're
husband
recording.
says I'm funny looking, ha ha.
Oh.
I'd be like, you.
My wife
funny.
says, you're special. Like, need to wear a helmet special.
Yeah. I didn't specify what kind of special. But I'm okay with being different.
But she's setting up our Voices from the Bench buttons in rows, which is amazing. So obviously you are one-track mind and obsessive-compulsive.
Yeah,
and
bad.
we talked about the fact that we all are a little bit, us podcasters have a little bit of that going on. So let's introduce her, shall we?
Oh, there's somebody here.
Yes.
No. Just kidding.
I'm part of the team, guys. You didn't even notice I was new.
Fellow podcaster.
And dental assistant.
And next door neighbor.
Nice.
I'm
And
podcasting
next door
right next
neighbor.
She was
door.
right next to us, so we had a lot to live up
And
to.
she and I are both doing a shot of Fireball just for honesty's sake. So
Yes.
It's fine. It's
Truth
8 p.m.
serum.
at night right now.
not so much.
Somewhere.
But
It
still.
all depends. Well, my husband says you can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning. Right?
I like
Everybody
your
has
husband.
goals.
Yeah.
He's cool.
He's
good
here
philosophy.
this weekend, right?
Yeah, we made it a getaway weekend.
Oh, good for
So
you guys.
kids stayed with Grandma and Grandpa. We came down to Arizona. I get to do what I love during the day and get to hang out with who I love at night.
And
You
he
guys
gets to
going
go to the
anywhere
pool and hang
PF
out.
Chang's, man.
Good for you.
We live
All
in
right.
Montana where we don't have any. And so, like, it's actually a destination place for me.
That's
like,
hilarious.
their Asian ribs.
That's awesome. All right.
Rhonda Holman.
Yeah,
Rhonda
so
Holman.
you have a podcast. Tell
I
us about your
do.
podcast.
So I'm a 20-year dental assistant, and I want to leave a mark.
Amazing when you're like 28.
Right? And
Aw,
Botox does
so
amazing
sweet.
things, right?
You do get that benefit working in an
I
office,
know, right?
Yeah.
It does help. But no, 20 years in, and I was tired of running into dental assistants. I said, I don't like what I do. It's just a job. Like, why do you think about work when you're not at work? And I'm like, well, that can't be an accident. Like, there's a system there's
Sure.
a series of events that created my passion. And so my goal, and Jules, she's my co-host on Wednesday, our goal is to share our passion. What made us care this much about being a dental assistant and developing our skills, and then just sharing that with the world.
Love it.
What's
No.
the name of it?
DA Rockstars podcast.
I like the
Rockstar.
Rockstar.
Oh, yeah.
How'd you come up with that?
Okay, I listened to a song because like it gives you the intro songs like when you first join Anchor, and I was like, I need a song that's kind of catchy. I was like, and then I heard it was like the Bratz movie. I've never seen the movie, but it was one of their soundtracks, and it said, "Baby, I'm a rock star." Rockstar. I was like, that's the one.
it.
And so I named the podcast after the song.
Nice.
Love it.
Nice. When did you start?
So we'll be two in June.
Same here.
We're two in
Oh,
April.
we share birthdays
Yes,
almost.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've done really. I mean, it's still a little tricky because not a lot of dental assistants know we're here. So I think
Tell us about it.
I know, right? You don't even know we exist. But we're trying to hopefully get the dentist to say, hey, I want my assistant to be like you. I'm like, okay, we'll direct them to the podcast, and we'll surround them with all these other rock stars that are doing exactly what we're doing and feel the same way, and it will rub off on them.
Sure.
So who do you interview? How do you find your interviews?
So I try to highlight people in the industry, like dental assistants that have companies, like if they're going out of their way, they have a YouTube channel. I interview the consultants that are actually out there doing the soft skill work with the assistants.
Nice.
And we just, people just come to us. We get really lucky.
Yeah.
That's how we have been,
They're
huh?
ready for a platform to show their voice.
To be positive.
Yeah. It's
Sounds
not
like
a
that's
bitch
what you're going
fest.
for.
It's literally like, if I like my job, you can like your job too.
Yeah.
Let's find the people
and
that
here's
like
how.
Yeah.
Well, Barb and I both come from an industry where we're also passionate about what we do. And a lot of times we spend a lot of time outside of our work hours talking about, thinking about.
Thinking about work when you're not at work.
Exactly. Waking up in the middle of the night thinking about that thing that should not be keeping you up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
A lot of us do that. But also, we also understand as laboratories that we deal a lot with assistants.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That can get us in the door.
More so than we spend talking to dentists.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, we're the ones handling all the cases.
Exactly.
You're the ones that say yay or nay. Go to this lab because I like this sales rep. Go to this lab because I don't like them.
Yeah.
Leave that one 'cause I don't like them.
I quit a lab once because the guy was apparently doing it out of his house, and he was a giant smoker. And so instead of doing like bubble wrap in my lab cases, he would put like the memory foam.
Yeah.
Like, and it smelled like smoke.
Oh, man, I'd open up. I'm like, we can't do it. I'm sorry. I love your work because it was PFM days. I'm like, dude, you do great. Margins and everything look amazing. Seat's perfect. I can't handle the smell
like
because
a strip club and
the whole office
How would you know
like
what strip clubs smell
I know, right? What's that glitter on your
face? Yeah.
Anybody have $1 I could borrow? That's funny. You say that. We used to get work.
Do not edit that out. Just saying.
We used to get work from this really old dentist, and every time I opened up his box, it just reeked of cigarettes. And I just imagine
old
this
man
guy just
like,
smoking, just writing up the
That's
script.
exactly what they do.
Yeah, it's gross.
It's so bad. So we do have a choice. Like, my dentist would have never known that that was a problem if it wasn't for me pointing it out.
Yeah, sure.
I always have said the way into the heart of the dentist is the assistant or the front office manager or somebody that can kind of you can get to relate to, and they like you, and they're like, hey, I don't like them, I like them. And
well, a lot of us are relationship driven too.
Yes.
Like, we're still lucky enough in the industry to pick and choose what we do and don't like. Yeah. And you know, it's a relationship business still. You know, luck with labs, though, what is that like for you guys? Like, I see all these big labs that come in and bring their, ship it around the world.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I have no personal relationship with the lab techs. Is that something that you guys are fighting as an industry?
We're a really large lab at night, but we have a team of 5 people that only build relationships and talk to the doctors. They're their technical managers, so they are on the phone all the time, communicating, addressing issues. So I just think you have to figure out what niche you're in, and you build it from there. A lot of the labs, they don't have that. Like, they don't have, people that can get on the phone and talk technical and talk relationships. But we do still. I don't know about you, Elvis.
Well, yeah, I mean, in comparison, Barb's got a lab that's got over 100 employees. Huge lab down in Florida. Mine, we're still around 30 to 40 employees. So
that's pretty big.
It's big. It's big, but it's different on how we handle relationships. I'm still the guy that's going to go into the office, bring lunch.
So
really?
You're the face of the business.
I am a lot of it.
And he's a good schmoozer.
Yeah.
He's a super good talker.
I know. I liked him before I met him.
I know. That's why he invented the
podcast.
Is
my people.
Full of BS. That's what I do.
Oh.
But, a lab has to have that relationship. Because you can get the same crown from her, from me,
what makes it special?
and
Actually, that's
7,000 other labs.
Yep.
Do people pick or choose your labs based on the products that you have? Like, do you make everything, or do you have certain things that you make more of? Like,
I think we're both full service.
Yeah, we're full service.
So that takes that one hurdle off the table.
The first thing is going to always be price.
Unfortunately, it's price. We service a lot of DSOs.
So dentists want the cheapest stuff? Or do they want a package deal? What do they want?
They want
the lowest price that you can offer. Yeah, unfortunately.
It really does.
So quality is not a priority.
Well, you know what's funny?
The
they want it cheap, but they want it perfect, and they want the relationship.
What is that thing? You can only have it cheap and fast, or fast and no good?
Yes, I've heard that as well. That's funny you brought that up.
But it's true.
But they want all 3.
Yeah.
They don't care. So it's tough.
But here's at the end of the day, they're relying on this material that you guys are fabricating to last their patients, so that their patients say, hey, that's my dentist. They did a ROCKSTAR root canal and a crown on this tooth. It hasn't bothered me a bit.
Yep.
Like, it's perfect. It's like God made it and put it in my mouth, and that's what I tell my patients. I'm like, my goal is to make it look like it grew there.
Yeah, same here.
And having a good lab is instrumental in that.
Yep.
Well, I always say that we get a lot of clients when other labs screw up.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what? Yeah, inconsistency,
like,
number one.
Oh, they keep messing the date. The last 4 haven't fit.
Yeah,
So we
that
get them.
denture went around the world twice before it came to my office.
Yes, but
literally.
But
yeah.
we lose offices because another lab came in and offered it $1 less.
So the relationship's gone. It's not.
It's a weird
You're just
balance.
a service. At the end of the day, you're just a service that is something I have to have.
Yep.
And they think of it as like, negotiating a lease to the space that they're renting out.
Yeah. We have to provide something better.
Yeah.
So what do you look for as an assistant?
Actually, ease right now is really important to me. Make it easy for me to send a case to you, and I will love you forever. Because I am in a rural area, so we don't have that option to develop relationships much.
Do you do like online RX?
We do. We do digital. So we do have a couple of labs that we work with for certain appliances. Here's what happened. So we had a lab tech in our office. And then he moved out of our office, but he was still in the area, and then he left us completely.
Wow.
But you're a guy. Like, that was our relationship.
That had to be perfect, though.
Oh, it was perfect.
Oh,
like,
having
shade
somebody
matching.
inside.
Oh, man, here, come work on number 8. Like, he would literally just come out of his office.
Right to the office, yeah.
That would be perfect. That's my ideal, actually.
I worked with a practice in Boise, Idaho, and we were in the same complex as our lab. And so I would have a patient, I would place the crown in, say it's like a central tooth. We would walk down the parking lot to the lab tech. He would double check before we glued him in. Yep. Like, it was such a team-driven procedure.
Wow.
No, the aesthetic cases.
Aesthetic cases.
Sure.
Yeah, not everyone.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And I would just sit there with my patient while he painted porcelain on.
Wow.
That's cool.
It was like the most magical thing of blending the two businesses. Like, the loyalty was there, like the quality of work you didn't have a chance to hide. Yeah.
Yep.
And cost meant nothing because
it's
of the convenience.
It's becoming a trend.
I do it a lot. I actually
technicians
go
are
in
being
and do cases.
It
go
makes
in and
sense.
do live patient. If I have like a
Yeah.
6-unit or a 10-unit case, I'll go in, make sure everything seats. If I have to tweak a contact or shade it or do anything, I love that.
Yeah.
Because I meet the patient and I see
yes,
that
it
whole
puts a face to the
emotional.
teeth.
Yeah, I love it.
And it makes you a better technician.
Makes me a better
It really
technician,
does because
and
you
it drives my
feel
passion.
what they're looking for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it.
And
a majority of the time, we're making everything off of a stone model.
oh yeah, that
Yeah.
doesn't
You got
flex.
no idea.
Yeah.
No idea.
You're
So-
making something. You're replacing. Putting a man-made part. I tell people all the time, like, we're making body parts here. By the
Big
way,
time.
They don't realize that.
Yep.
Yeah.
we're making body parts, and
Customized
it's got to be
body
right.
parts.
It's like putting a faulty hip in somebody just because it was the cheapest hip.
The first thing you see is a person's smile.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that when they put it up on the screen where they're missing an eyebrow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
oh,
the
yeah.
Or a tooth.
It's a great
And the
one.
first thing you have no idea about the eyebrow. You're only looking at that tooth, and it's like, what's
Yep.
wrong with this picture? And it's like they don't have any teeth, but their eyebrow's missing, and you
Yeah.
just
I'm
right
still
right
upset
by
I
it.
didn't come up with that.
I know that would be, but somebody would stole it by now, so
Yeah,
they
it
never
doesn't
know
matter.
where
But
it
it's
originated
true.
from.
That's how important the smile is, and that's
Yeah.
where the emotional connection
Oh, man.
comes in, and it's
So,
huge.
I had an airway disorder growing up, so I had very crooked teeth. And the minute I got out of braces, I couldn't stop smiling
Aw.
because I spent so much of my life trying to hide it. The minute I could show it off, like, I literally don't know
You're
how
like-
to not smile.
Yeah.
It's like stupid. Like,
Watch me now.
It's been 40 years, Ronda. Come on. But I do. It made a huge difference. Totally changed my personality.
Aw,
I was never an
that's
extrovert
great.
like this.
Good for you.
But getting a pretty smile and not being ashamed of it resets people.
It does. It gives
why we do
someone
what we
a
do,
lot of
my friend.
self-confidence. Yeah.
So Elvis was telling me you wanted to become a denturist.
Okay. So I
Is
thought
that
about
correct?
it. I was going to get a BMW van in Montana, and I was going to set up a lab where I would go to remote areas that are, lacking in services, and put an ad in the paper and say, hey, the denturist bus is here. I'll be at the parking lot at Food Lion from Monday to Friday. They come in, get their impressions. I fabricate the dentures
Because
and
you already know
partials.
how to set teeth and process and all
Which is
that.
amazing.
As a dental assistant, that's an extended
huge.
duty.
Yeah.
My doctor, I know it's funny because I was telling Elvis this. I'm like, my doctor, in dental school, they teach you a little bit, right? They make you do a denture. They make you do a partial. And so I said, well, teach me what they taught you in dental school. So we sat in the lab for a day, and she taught me that. And then I went and took those tools as a base, and I went online and I watched every video I could find of, like, setting teeth in wax.
That's awesome.
And how to process acrylic.
So you were self-taught?
Self-taught.
Wow.
Well, I mean, my doctor gave
That's
me the
awesome.
fundamentals, but any dental assistant can do it. I mean, it's such a great service, especially when I have patients that really number 9, trauma, right? Tooth out. Put an implant in, but we can't load it. We can't put anything on it. I can make them a flipper, and they're out of there in the same day.
That's awesome.
It's just it's above and beyond
smile.
service. Yeah. That's probably one of the most rewarding things is giving people teeth. Like for a dental assistant, because we don't get the same feeling as a dentist does when they do aesthetic cases with crowns. But that's I get that feeling that they get when they deliver crowns when I deliver a flipper or partial.
That's
cool. So cool.
And it's funny
and you make them.
I know. I learned the hard way, though. So a funny story. This patient asked me, she's like, I want my diastema back. I'm like, well, I'm making but this is before I knew the fundamentals of like denture and how the teeth are actually supporting the denture. And I was like, oh, I can do that. I can make you diastema. So I set the teeth in wax. I get her immediate denture. Sure enough, there's the diastema. Within like 2 months, she comes back in. Oh, my denture broke. I'm like, durr. Guess where it broke? Right between 8 and 9. Yep. So there's like fundamental things that I didn't, you don't think about until the real world experiences. But it's changed because I love it. Like I take teeth home and set them home in wax and I tell people like, you don't have to send this out of the office. Like use me for these immediates. Like I will never pretend to know I know anything outside my pay grade, but I can at least get immediate stuff done.
That's awesome.
Wow. I love that.
You're very marketable in the laboratory business.
Well, I think every dental assistant should be like, I know, right? Every dental assistant, I mean, we get all the fundamentals, right? Morphology and anatomy, and we're in there every day. We know the placement of the canines. So, like, it's just taking the time to develop that passion for it.
It's big in our industry to hire
dental assistants
that get
totally.
They don't want to be chairside anymore.
They don't want to be chairside.
They want to be technical. They want to talk on the phone.
3 or 4 in our lab where they come in, they're like, I'm just tired of the BS that happens in the office. I'm tired of patients. I'm tired of the
I just want to come, give me 5 cases, give me 2 days. And
I believe they're underpaid.
Oh,
big time. You've got the hygienist with all of the marketing, and then you have the dental assistant that does everything, and you guys don't make as much money. I know that for a fact.
Right.
So I'm glad you're bringing a voice.
We're trying to figure out what is your value, what's your worth. And so many people, like I have a bracelet. You guys can't see it because you're hearing me, but it says you are not just a dental assistant.
Exactly.
And so I was just talking to Dr. Brady, and I said, what makes a ROCKSTAR dental assistant? And I said, it's the person that comes up to you and says, I need another job. What other jobs do you have to offer? You hired me to be your dental assistant, but I want another job. And so this opens up the possibility of making more income.
Yeah.
Right? So I want you to hire me to do your lab work. I want you to hire me to do your marketing. I want you to hire me to run your social media. Like, these are all extra jobs you can ask from your boss who would rather hire somebody in the house.
Sure.
Just like we're talking about relationships with labs, and that's why they get that lifelong commitment.
Interesting.
But dental assistants, they're still not at the place where we're getting there. You're not just something. Like, you're an investment. Like, your
you
career.
guys are so amazing. Yeah. And you're there doing pretty much everything for the doctor.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says, but you're the one that's assisting and making it happen and doing the bonding and getting everything ready and calming the patient down. The doctor rolls in and, gets all the credit.
Yeah.
So
if we're trained right, I mean, we are the nucleus is what I like to say.
I like that, too.
That's
the
great.
Nucleus.
That's
but
great.
It's true, I have an affinity for lab work. Like, it's my happy place. And that's why Elvis is like, oh, you should look into denturism. Is it denturism?
Yeah.
Denturism.
Because we can't have it in Montana. And I did look into it, but I would have to go to school in another state and then come back for the year to be shadowed. And it just, with small kids,
it's a journey. Yeah. We've learned a lot about it, and it's a journey.
But I mean, with new technology and I don't even, with 3D molds and all this, everything that's printed out now. Like, how does that work? Like, as a dental assistant, I'm hungry to know, where do you guys see the technology taking the dental lab?
I definitely think we're going to be printing dentures. If we're not already, it's going to just keep evolving, and everybody's going to be printing dentures.
I think everything in 10 years, our whole industry is going to be additive manufacturing, which means everything will be printed.
Everything's going to come in via scan, and we're going to design the models. We're going to print the models. We're going to design the case, mill the case. You're still going to need technicians, of course, because we always will, stain and glaze, seat and finish, and all of that. But I really think that the intraoral scanning is going to
so
take
that's
over.
One more thing that's going to take the relationship component out of the business decision when you're partnering with the lab, right?
Yeah, you can send
then
it
there's
anywhere.
no face.
You can send it anywhere.
So,
I mean, when you send me that crown scan next week, because you're going to, right? You don't need to have that close relationship.
Yeah.
There's no need to have that lab down the street.
Yeah, but what if you send a bad scan? You're going to need somebody on the other end of the phone to help you, tell you that, your tissue's overlapping the margin. How can we train you to scan better? This is what we need for room. I really believe that even though scanning's taking over the world, they're still not trained adequately to always send you a best scan every single time, 100% of the time.
No,
and they're going to need us to be able to mentor them. I think the laboratory is going to take the training side because the companies don't have enough trainers, that we are going to be the ones to go out and train our clients and make them better and help them with their scanning, just like we did with impressions when we told them they were distorted or we couldn't read the margin or there wasn't enough room. So I think it's just going to change, but it's going to change dynamically where they're just going to do it differently, but we're still going to have to train them and talk to them about their techniques and their margins. And just because they think it's a good margin doesn't mean it's going to be a good margin, which is a no-brainer in my mind because they can see it on the screen, but they still, probably 20% of our scans, we have to engage with the client and tell them they have to redo it. So,
and can you do that in real time?
That's what we're trying to do, is that they can actually send us the scan, and we have somebody on the monitor that's looking at the scan at the same time the patient's still in the chair, so that it's a yes or a no. That is actually a thing. Whether it's one of the larger companies like Itero doing it or whether it's the lab doing it, I think that's where we're going to have to be.
Yeah, you have to, because
you're not going to want to temporize them, get them back, go there. So we've actually added more team members so we can actually look at the scans.
It reminds me of like when you go to a website and they have the chatbot. Like you guys would be the chatbot. Like,
yes, actually.
Welcome to your scan.
Well
How may I
said.
help you?
Yeah. That's exactly it.
I like that because we're practice myself, and so I do all the marginations and the preliminary design and stuff like that. So I already had an affinity to lab work.
Yeah.
It's different, though. Like, it's not as fun as playing with acrylic.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Like, I feel like I have to rely on the technology more than, It's funny because I was telling somebody, like, before I had loops or had a microscope available, I would run my finger across the acrylic to see if there was a scratch and then take my polisher, because I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
So I'm like using my fingernail to feel
we
for
talked
any
about that yesterday. I
discrepancies.
can't see anything. I have like 4 pairs of loops. Actually 5, but they're all over the lab because I can't see. And that's embarrassing.
So there's a rule saying that you can't take a final impression. It has to be the doctor. Does that change with the scan? Can you take the final scan?
I
don't know
if it's charted waters, honestly.
I don't know who would know the difference.
I take the final scan.
You do? But you're not allowed to take a final impression. That's interesting.
We'd have to dig into that.
That's a great point.
Hopefully we didn't
actually,
get you in
Elvis.
trouble just now. But.
No.
But that's true. Anybody can do a final scan.
My name is Ronda Smith. Actually, it's Jane Smith.
Jane Smith.
Actually, it's funny because my maiden name was Smith, so that wouldn't work. So
I
really don't know what that regulation. I bet it's one of those gray zones right now. I work with a lot of stuff that isn't regulated yet. Like myofunctional therapy, retraining posture of the tongue and the lips, and
retraining posture of the tongue.
Yes, so many people live their whole life with their tongue on the bottom of their mouth when it's supposed to be flat on the top.
I was just thinking mine's on the top of my mouth. Really?
Well, now I'm consciously thinking about it, and I want to put it where it should be.
And what does that do?
So the bottom of your nose is the top of your mouth, right? I mean, it's very delicate bone up there. That pressure is actually, not only does it create suction so that when you fall asleep, your tongue stays in that position, and it kind of rolls into like sleep apnea and how we're seeing obstructed airways, but the tongue is always supposed to live plastered to the roof of the mouth. So my job in the practice is to help these kids learn these habits so that they can develop their face, because you actually need the tongue to push up there, and you need the lips to be closed so that every comes in alignment.
Wow, I've never heard that.
How do you get a kid
to
do that?
It's therapy. So I'd give them exercises. We train the muscles with posture. And then, once the tongue is nice, it's such an underrated muscle. It's the only one in your whole body that's only connected at one end. Like, it's the coolest one, in my opinion. But we also don't realize what a critical role it plays in developing the face and the skull.
Wow.
Never would have thought of that.
If these kids grow up with an airway disorder, say their tongue is on the bottom of their mouth, and they're not getting this facial development, they will always have a small airway. So
Interesting.
See, we learned another thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
I literally
it's
have
called
never heard that. I
myofunctional
love
therapy.
that. Myofunctional therapy.
You are like a super expanded dental.
So
yeah, big time.
I'm addicted to education, I think is what it comes down to.
Nerd.
And I'm a nerd, and I'm addicted to how I can teach others to want to learn.
To be better. I love
You know,
that.
like nobody says you have to do this, but you should want to do this. And if you don't want to do it, then let me help you.
Sounds like you should start a pot. Oh, wait, you did.
Oh, what a great idea. Let me drink some Fireball. Maybe I'll go do that.
Mine's gone, by the way. She's drinking the last
Yeah, your
bit
fourth
of
one
hers.
is gone.
My second. My second. But we could go to 4. Just depends. This is our
It
last
is
day.
afternoon.
You do
What
have
a
couple
great
hours till your
interview.
flight.
I loved meeting you and talking to you.
Okay, wait.
It's
one quick
amazing.
question.
Yeah.
Statistic-wise, how many people are ordering gold full coverage crowns still?
You said yesterday you still had a fair
we
amount.
still have
I
a fair
don't.
amount.
Maybe
Now,
1, 2 a week.
I bet you we do anywhere from 4 to 8 a day.
Not me.
But we're also in Indiana. So, like every trend in every industry, it starts on the coast and
And
it
then it
comes
goes
in.
like this.
Right.
Yeah.
And we still have a lot of clients, doctors that are
old.
That
I don't
are
mean that negatively,
nearing
but the older
retirement,
ones are still
nearing
prescribing
retirement,
it.
or as we see more past retirement age, but still practicing.
You're like,
And-
really?
Yes.
But you know what?
I guess I can make a crown
And
off
that's
of
still
this
the gold
impression.
standard,
I
no pun
love-
intended.
I love
Yeah.
full cast crowns.
Well, because you can have really shitty margins
Yes.
and
They're
get a really
beautiful.
amazing gold
Varnish
crown.
and it's never going to
in.
chip, break,
Yep.
or ruin
I
your
only have gold
opposing.
in my mouth.
Really?
I
I'm
have-
a
My
gold
dad's
fan.
fond of gold.
I have
Yeah.
2 full cast posterior crowns.
Yeah,
Love
and
'em.
it's just, because they're so biocompatible and the way they conduct hot and cold. I love the way they feel, but it is a lost art. Like, in my practice, I haven't ordered a gold crown in 5 years.
No.
At least.
I show
Yep.
up to offices and talk about them. They're all like, I'm like, it's
Not
so
everybody is aesthetically driven. Like, there are
No.
some practical patients that said, give me the material back there that is proven,
Last.
track record,
Yep.
to last the longest.
Yeah, I mean, zirconia is still only, 10 years old?
Not even, yeah, just
So,
about.
I mean, gold's 50, 60, 70, 80. So
And
that's
the
for
nice
sure.
thing
I
is
would agree.
we don't cast them. We mill them.
Oh, what?
So-
Tell me this. This
so-
is new to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I mean,
He's going
obviously.
to go a plug of argon again, right? 'Cause
Well,
that's where you sent
yeah,
them.
it is from argon.
Yep.
But, I mean, it's a machine that very few labs could probably afford. So we outsource it. We still design it, and then we send it out, and it's milled out of a solid block of gold.
Yeah.
So if you remember full cast crowns, when you used to
Yeah,
get them, they're all ground on the
Yeah.
inside. They almost look burnt. These things are beautiful. I mean, they're so clean. The margins are perfect. And what's nice is because it's so controlled, they're lighter.
No waste. Yeah.
Yeah, they're lighter, so it's less expensive than traditionally cast because that's a lost method where you would lose metal during the process.
Right.
But they're beautiful, but nobody wants them.
I
don't wanna
I wish
see
everybody had that on the second
Yeah.
molar.
Yeah.
I know.
I'd pick that over zirconia, but I'm not a dentist, so.
Plus,
Yeah,
when you
zirconia is
die,
rough.
it's something you can leave for your kids.
I know it
'Cause they
has
can yank
value.
your crowns out.
I know, right?
God.
Come on, kids, come and
Wow. I never would have thought of that, but
get 'em. If
you're
you
right.
bury me with my gold, we're gonna have a problem.
With my will comes a pair of pliers.
Wow.
Yes. Go.
Yank those suckers out
Yeah.
and trade them in.
Now there's nothing for
Jesus.
anybody. All the zirconia ain't worth nothing.
And I'm drinking Fireball and not him. He's coming up with this crazy stuff. So, wow. I never would have thought of that, though. You're right. It's probably worth $1,000 or $2,000.
It's something you can leave behind,
Yep.
even when
Yeah.
you've gambled away your
Oh,
entire inheritance.
Yep.
I told you
Good
I
to
was worth
know.
something. By golly, here's my 2 teeth.
How many gold crowns or gold teeth do you do in dentures? Anterior.
Ooh. I've had maybe 3 cases over
Not
my
me.
20 years.
Yeah.
We probably do a dozen a year.
Come on.
Yep.
We have the little catalog that has
Jeez.
like the
Yep.
the cross
star.
or the star or the
The
bird,
Playboy bunny.
the porcelain like open
no,
face.
it's there, I swear.
It is. I saw it too. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
Playboy bunny in there.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, we do
But
it all
you
the
know,
time.
Glad I
and
live
that
in
could
Florida.
be regional too, because I have a lot of my Hispanic patients that are like in the Mexico areas, and they love the aesthetic look of mixed porcelain and gold.
The window tooth. We do
Windows,
a lot of
mhm.
those.
I have seen a couple of those.
And a majority of them, they're
Wow.
on, get this, Surprise, surprise, economy dentures.
Yeah.
And they have to write a check to pay for the difference.
And that tooth will cost more than
the
what
whole
denture.
Yep. Wow. It's so true, but everybody's got priorities. Like people that can't afford gas to go in the car, but have fake nails. You know, they're like, "Hey,
yes, I want my hands." So
you ever drive through those neighborhoods where the houses look kind of, but you look in there and they have an 80-inch TV in there?
Yes, it's priorities.
We have money for the things we want,
and that comes back to a dentist picking a lab.
Yep.
What are their priorities?
That's so true.
Do they want to have continuity with you, or they have this established relationship? So if something isn't wrong, they know you're going to make sure you do everything to get it right.
Yeah.
Or are they on the Amazon account and they just want the cheapest, most convenient one that has a decent amount of stars, like ratings wise, and that's one I'll pick.
It's true.
I love it how you wrap this up. You're good at this.
I know you are. It's like, wow, you bring it all together.
But do they pick it off of convenience or off of quality?
The hardest part is us getting in there to prove the quality. That's the hardest part.
Yeah, because you could spend all day until you're blue in the face sending samples that never come back and nothing ever gets done with them.
True.
Yep.
So dental assistants are your way in.
Yes.
You send me this MP3 and I'll post it on DA Rockstars, and then we'll get that much closer to finding both of you guys. Okay, so your lab is
Night Dental.
Night Dental.
It's in Oldsmar, Florida.
Oldsmar, Florida.
In the warm heat of Florida.
Yeah.
I'm going back to.
It's like 20 degrees where I'm at.
Oh, yeah? So in Indiana, what part? What is?
Illinois.
Illinois.
No. She always says.
That's a running joke.
Is that the only place you know
Pisses
in
him
Illinois?
off when I say Illinois. It's like, Indiana, damn it.
Indiana. It's in a town called Zionsville.
Zionsville, really? I mean, come on. That's crazy. But
what's
keep
your
going.
lab
I'm sorry.
It's called Summer.
Okay.
It's
Summer.
It's pronounced like the season, but it's spelled SOMER.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We have a Summers, Montana.
With the SOMER?
With an S at the end.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Right down the road for me.
Yeah.
It's a small world after all.
Well,
it's funny because how
now
many
I got to
fields.
pay royalty for that. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. Write the check to Barbara.
Mr. Walt Disney just made $40. You sung a song.
That's funny.
I didn't technically sing the whole sentence, though. So
we're going to go get another shot of Fireball because they left.
Like
so there's no judgment zone.
And there's no one there to.
I know. So they won't be watching me on my third trip. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm sorry.
Rhonda,
thank
great
you,
to
Rhonda.
have you on.
It was
I appreciate
fun.
it.
Oh, it's so funny because we've been neighbors for 2 days, and I'm like, at some point we're gonna talk.
Yeah.
I know, and then we just clicked.
Well, people don't know how much they're gonna love me until they meet me. I just got to get everybody to meet me, and then you'll fall in love with me and want to take me home.
Well,
and
I
buy
love
me
your
fancy
podcast. So what's your podcast one more time?
I am DA Rockstars with Jules Varney, and
I
we
recommend
do all kinds of amazing
every
things.
dental technician to check out that podcast.
Absolutely.
It's
learn more.
Peeling back behind the layers of us.
We have to
I'm gonna check it out.
understand who we need to work with.
Right. It's
and
like
that's the only way to do it.
Yeah, and because we got to build relationships. So what are our pain points, and what are your pain points, and let's find the common ground and find solutions.
Here.
It's funny.
Well said.
I had a doctor. She's like, I want to do CEREC, and I'm like, oh, you better not. But the only experience I ever had was Omnicam, the blue spray. Was it Omnicam? No, it was just a blue spray cam.
Yeah, the blue. Yeah.
And I was like, you don't want to do that. Just keep using the lab. If you're going to do same-day milling, don't do CEREC. It's horrible. The margins are always open. Contacts are never right.
It's rough.
Well, it's because my only exposure to it was, from the 90s.
Yeah, the old one.
And they weren't great.
It has a lot to do with the provider, too. You could do so much with the software, but if you're not utilizing it properly, then, it's always going to have a crappy outcome. But when we got it, the technology has advanced so much that, I love scanning. I'm not a huge fan of OrthoScan because I don't like wrapping around the canines. But other than that,
So you can design crowns and make dentures and partials and flippers.
Yes, I just can't bend wire or make cast.
Okay.
You are the most marketable person for the laboratory.
Absolutely.
Right now.
I'm telling you. You're who we need to hire. I'm serious.
I'll be your, what is it called? The middleman?
Jack of all trades.
The amalgam of different things.
The glue.
There you go.
Okay, so if I ever go to be a denturist, I'll come down and let you guys train me for a year in Florida.
Do.
And then I'll come say hi to you in Illinois.
She's not coming to Indiana.
On the connecting flight.
As you go by the snow. See ya, bitches. I'm out of here.
I'll come by on my way down. Me and Barb are just going to work.
We're going to drink Fireball.
I don't blame you. Awesome.
Enjoy
Thanks
ourselves.
again.
Thank you, Ronda.
Appreciate it.
That's actually funny.
Yeah, that was
I should have
recorded it.
That sounded a little sexual.
See how to explain that one to my boss.
You wouldn't be able to. That's way too incriminating.
So Barb and I are here at Voices of Dentistry.
Again.
And again.
Dun, dun, dun.
And right across, I guess, the hall from us
Pretty much.
is Dentsply Sirona.
That's us.
Big name here in our industry, even though we're in a clinical conference. And sitting over there, and let me see your name tag again. Danny
Vezmar.
Very good.
Vezmar.
Very good.
So I met you at Visions.
We did, yes.
Because you are moving from clinical to the lab.
So I'm adding lab to clinical.
Nice.
Right. So
your plate's not full enough already.
No, I was, a little bored, so we decided we'll get into some other things as well. So I'm the marketing director for the restoratives business, the preventive business, hygiene, and lab.
Great.
So how many divisions are in Dentsply? Like 9 or something?
Yeah, I'd say, probably 9 if you, ortho, endo, implant, and then preventive/hygiene, restorative. And then we kind of have a technology, with extraoral imaging and CAD CAM and all that. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And lab's one of them.
Lab, absolutely.
What percentage does lab make up of Dentsply? Do you know?
I don't know the answer to that,
okay.
actually. So it's
I'm sure we do a fair amount of business with you, though.
Absolutely.
Big time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been with the company for almost 25 years. I started with the restorative business, actually as a chemical compounder, making Dical and IRM and some of these old products.
Wow.
My dad worked for the
How
company.
fun is that? So you're
Really?
second generation.
I'm
That's
third
cool.
generation.
Oh, give me
yeah.
5.
For Dentsply?
Right.
Yeah, so
that's great.
my grandmother worked for the company. So I'm from Milford, Delaware, where the LD Caulk Company was and still is. The restorative division, we call that now. So when I graduated from college, I got the, what are you doing with the rest of your life chat with my dad.
I got that, too.
He said, come apply for this job at Caulk. You never know what will happen. So, so
here you are.
my brother works there now, actually. He's there. My uncle retired from there. My in-laws retired from there. So, yeah.
That is really cool.
Milford,
That's
Delaware is
a
a little town. So, and then I moved to Charlotte. After the merger, I moved to Charlotte about 2.5 years ago to take on the marketing role for restoratives, and then now that's expanded over the last few months.
So you worked with them before they partnered up with Sirona?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I started, it was Dentsply Caulk is when I started in 95. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's
so
interesting.
long
It's
ago.
been fun.
25
So
years.
my exposure to the lab side of the business was, I went to York for meetings here and there, and I'd go to the True Bite building and see where the teeth were being made and the teeth cards and all that.
Yeah.
So, but the last few months has been really, really interesting because the lab business, I think, is a lot more complicated than I think people appreciate if they're not in it.
Yeah.
It's
a little crazy.
Yeah.
It's a little complicated, just a tad.
Yeah, I'm learning.
Yeah.
Visions did not scare you
And
away.
we're all crazy,
no,
so you know.
I went to Visions and I still came back.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I did not get scared off.
I was surprised everybody behaved pretty good this year at Visions.
I think so,
didn't
too.
see too much crazy.
Well, there
It
was
a
enough
great
UFC
meeting.
fighters in the lobby, so
I
if any
know.
trouble broke out, that
That was
it was like
spectacular,
built-in
wasn't it?
bouncers.
They had
Yeah,
the
it was
weigh
pretty
in
cool.
there, and they
Yeah,
had
it was
the
cool.
fighters there. That was cool.
Yeah. So here you are, a few months into the lab.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, what observations have you had?
So here's, so Dentsply Sirona, we're really focusing on who we are to the dental industry in the United States. So we're really focused on defining what our mission is. And ultimately, we want to help build healthy practices, whether that be a dental practice or a lab, for healthy smiles. And, Dentsply Sirona, we typically, you'd see a lab rep or you'd see a preventive rep or restorative rep. And they're all parts of the company, but we're not really telling the story of who Dentsply Sirona is.
Yeah.
And that's our goal, is we want practices to be healthy so that you can help patients have healthy smiles. And 2 ways we do that. Obviously products and procedures, really focusing on what are the key procedures in a lab or in a dental office that are either the generating the most revenue, where there needs to be more efficiency, and then support, education. We do all kinds of in-lab trainings and marketing summits and things like that for the lab community. So those are the kind of the 2 pillars. So healthy practices, healthy smiles through procedure and product-based information and products, and then practice support. So, from education events. So what I've kind of seen from the lab side so far is, efficiency incredibly important. Revenues flat or shrinking in many cases. So it's really important for a lab to have an incredible relationship with the doctor. And I think I think there's things that we can do to help drive that and build that relationship from a communication standpoint, because there's lots of options. So, lab, again, 3 months in, consolidation, there was 10,000 labs 6 or 7 years ago, and now 7,000 or less than 7,000. So,
more technicians, which is always interesting when you talk about that. Yeah.
So I think efficiency and having the right product solutions and the right support. So things like Lucitone digital print, for example, where you've got this incredibly cool product that high strength, and there's efficiency in the workflow, digital design. Those seem to be the things that we're focused on trying to drive.
Awesome. How are you doing that?
So products.
You say you're driving it.
Product solutions, for example, with like Lucitone digital print, continuing to build out the Zircon line, so more aesthetic zirconia options. And then, of course, the removable business is
You're partnered with Carbon, correct?
Carbon for
it's your material that they're
Yep, for the Lucitone.
So how's that going for you?
Good. There's I think about close to 200 Carbon printers in the U.S.
I have 3.
So the ones that the Lucitone digital print works in. Yep. I can't remember. I think it's M series. Am I saying it? Is it the M? Mm-hmm. All right, got that right.
I say yes, but I'm not sure. I'm not 100%
So Carbon,
sure.
If you're listening, I'm sorry if I screwed that up.
So am I. You are getting a plug though, so we appreciate you.
So so there's the expansion of the consumable products that you use in the digital printing equipment.
Yeah.
And then, of course, teeth is still a big part of our business. The portrait, the IPN, the denture teeth are, that's something that the TrueBite division, the lab business has been known for years and years. So, and sometimes that's just, having the right, because there's, what I learned really quickly was like, oh my gosh, there's so many SKUs. There's different shapes and different shades and different sizes, and oh my God, it's
pretty intense,
overwhelming.
But I will never understand.
How do we simplify that?
It is confusing to me.
That is not my skill, but
mold, shade,
I appreciate it immensely.
Angle,
yep.
Yes. Numbers. Yeah. You look at a card. I know.
And
there's
any
people
number of those
laughing
teeth
at
can
me.
completely change the
yeah,
smile
you look
and
at
the
a card.
look of the
There's
face.
14 different numbers on it.
Yeah.
And apparently there's like a logarithm. Each one of those numbers means something.
Yeah.
I have not figured that out yet. Not figured that out yet. And then, so the product solutions. And then, we have anybody that gets into our in-lab software, for example, and we'll have a new version of the in-lab software coming out, so which is going to be really kind of nice for the
We just got
business.
19. What do you mean there's 19? A new one?
Yeah, well, we're going to have
some cool
stuff coming in 20.
Yeah.
But then there's always training. So there's, we have advocates that can come to your lab and help train people. We'll have events in Charlotte. We'll have events that, just providing the education that people need to use the things that we have. So
wow, good.
So it's
in
fun.
Charlotte, when's that? So do you have a facility there that you're bringing people in to train?
We do.
Techs in to train?
I don't know the date yet.
Is it both labs and clinicians? Or
we can do both there.
Wow.
So the academy was, I think, built more for clinicians in mind, but we've stolen one of the milling rooms. And,
Smart.
We've got the 3D printer installed. We have lab milling units there. We have lab scanners there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of building out a section where we can do better hands-on. You've got to have the right fume hoods and all that stuff. So we're building out a section of the academy where we can do more lab tech training.
Nice.
Yeah, that's cool. Where I went for the DS Lab Marketing Summit.
Yep.
That was there last year.
Great.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
really?
It's great.
Beautiful.
Yeah. It's nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was when I was in Delaware, I sat in the building was probably built in the early 50s, and I'd look out my window, and the hospital I was born in was right across the street,
Wicked crazy.
And now I'm in this super fancy building and parking garages and elevators.
Yeah.
And it's really, really
beautiful
nice.
golf course.
You've rounded up.
I know that sounds strange. I'm saying nice things about an elevator, but if you've been to Milford, Delaware, and seen our facility, we've been there for a long time. We do awesome things there. We've been there since 1913. The company started in 1877,
and it's the building's still there. They still utilize it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. So this is fancy. I go to work in this fancy building. It's beautiful, and we'll probably, I think we had over 10,000 people come through the academy last year for education of some sort. So we do a really good job of having that facility used frequently for training and education.
It's a nice setup.
There's local study clubs that come and use it in the evenings. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's real nice. So you mentioned before we started recording, you're getting prepared for your first LMT lab.
I am.
Oh, that's in what, 4 weeks?
Yeah,
I think it's the end of February.
I've been to Chicago Midwinter a lot, but I've never made it over to Lab Day. So that's going to be.
You're going to love it.
You're going to be there the whole time? Or?
Yeah, I'll be there most of the time. Yeah,
nice.
I'll have to pop out to McCormick here and there.
Yeah.
But yeah, my plan
so
is
to
spend a lot of time.
Good for you.
So I'll be at
Lab
Day.
We love that meeting.
Oh,
I bet you there's
the
going to be 7,000 people there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be huge, and it just keeps growing year and year and year.
Yeah, we'll have a lot of fun stuff there. So Mike Dombrowski's the marketing communication manager on our team.
Mike.
You know Mike.
Yeah, so
so
do I.
doing an incredible job, making sure everything's ready for that. We've got, in our room, really good flow. We'll have breakout sessions with education, and I'm excited about it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a great show. And what's nice is a lot of dentists are now going to it. I mean, every year
think
it's
that they
more
would.
and more.
I think last year there was like 500 or 600 that I saw, and you would think that they would, want to partner with us and see what we're doing. But after looking at the presentations yesterday, they've got a lot of mills. They've got a lot of printers. They're doing a lot of things that we're doing. It's a little scary.
Yeah.
I'm really actually glad that I attended all day yesterday to see exactly what they are doing.
Yeah.
And they're doing a lot of it
Well,
themselves.
speaking of mills, you guys just came out with the Prime Mill.
Yeah, Prime Mill got launched yesterday.
Yeah, I thought it was like real recent.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear, and this is probably not the greatest thing to say, but I'm happy to hear it's only 4-axis.
Yeah.
Because
why are you happy to hear that?
Because we have the 5-axis. Labs have 5-axis. Office labs
so they
still
can
have
still
4.
only do those simpler things, and they don't have to do implants and all of the harder things.
Yes.
Okay, I see your point.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah,
Was there a method behind that?
I don't know. So I'm a Goop and Goo consumables guy for the most part, so I'm a little weaker on the technology side of business. I mean, obviously know what these things are and how they work.
Sure.
But, I wasn't involved in the kind of development phase of all of those things. So I'm learning still about the Prime Mill and all that stuff too. So
well, a lot of technicians are happy to hear that it was only 4-axis.
Yeah. It's good to know.
Thank you. You're selling it directly to clinical doctors
through distributor.
Okay.
Through distribution.
Well, I'm sure labs will buy it.
Does it do Emax and zirconia?
Yes.
Or just really?
Yeah,
Is
Emax,
it wet,
zirconia,
dry?
glass ceramic.
Both.
I think it's
Both?
both.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it's both.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we started originally with the first version of that. MCXL, I think.
Yep.
I mean, that's how we got into it, and we pumped out a lot of Emax on it. So,
and I think it's definitely something that I'm learning and trying to understand how, us having some of this chairside milling technology. How do we make sure that the lab understands that the intention of this is not that we're not heading down the path of removing all of that stuff from a lab, but there's opportunity for all of us. I mean, if you look at chairside milling, it's been available for 30 years.
Yeah.
And it's not like suddenly labs don't have any business anymore. And we've got really good relationships with folks that have really good conversation with their dentist partners who have chairside milling.
Absolutely.
You're typically not milling everything chairside.
Yeah.
And more complicated cases, you have a good relationship with your lab still. And you may want to scan and send it to the lab and let them do the design and mill work. Or so it's kind of an interesting symbiotic type relationship.
Absolutely. No, I spend a lot of time going to offices to introduce our lab and to talk about. And when they mention to me, we got a CEREC, I don't get up and leave.
No.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, that's great.
Yeah.
Let me see what we can do to complement that.
Yeah.
And get the other units that you're not doing.
They
Right.
can't.
Yeah.
I've heard multiple people say that 40% they can't do in their mill.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they don't do any anteriors unless they're really into that.
They
probably
gotta
only
be
single
really into it.
bicuspid, single molars.
Lots of molar work.
Yeah, I think the bulk of it is a single unit crown.
Yeah. I mean, everything above that, they need us.
Yes, still, thank God.
You're not going anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere. I don't know about you, but I'm here to stay. I love this industry.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah,
we welcome you to the community.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and it's been honestly, so that's the other really incredible thing is that, and this was very evident to me at the NADL meeting at Vision 21 last week. You guys heard my story. I mean, this company literally has been feeding my family for over 40 years. I was 6 years old when my dad started working for the company, and then of course I joined it. And that's the sense that I get from the lab community as well, is that incredibly like collaborative and very family oriented. Like it's a lab
Always
family.
has been. Yeah.
And that's really important to me because I love relationships and I love people and just, like that room last week, there's so many of you sitting in there that, I'm using air quotes here, competitors, but you're all working together to further what lab is and what lab does. And I really appreciate that. My first exposure, I was in Germany in December at our Hanau facility where we manufactured a lot of the lab materials and just got plugged in with these really great group of lab people that, are advocates for in-lab. And it's just like they adopted me into the family so quickly. And it's really been a great couple of months.
Part of dentistry,
Yep.
the labs.
I agree.
So I appreciate it.
And we want to thank
you for the warm welcome.
You and Dentsply for being huge sponsors of so many things within our industry. I mean, that's what helps us survive, what helps us grow. It's a major part. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Great to meet you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
We
Thanks
hope
for
to
having
see
me.
you around a lot.
You will. Thank you.
We'll see you at Lab Day.
Yes, you will.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
We cannot thank Ronda and Danny enough for sitting down with us. Now, we all know that a majority of the time when you're talking to a dental office, you're actually talking to a dental assistant.
Yep.
And a good dental assistant can make all the difference between a good and bad relationship with that office.
Yep.
So do yourself a favor and check out the DA ROCKSTAR podcast and get a better understanding of them and to help create a better relationship for the ones you know. Because we all know how important that relationship is.
And now more than ever, we should jump on her podcast and see how they're handling everything and what they're going through and what their industry looks like right now and how their doctors are handling everything. I think it'd be a pretty interesting chat. Maybe we should give them a shout and see if we can't get an update. What life is like right now for dental assistants and docs.
I bet you they sit around waiting for emergency cases, I imagine.
I'm wondering, right? Or if they've changed their hours or if they're down to 2 days a week. And we know, they're not doing any hygiene. So I'm just curious, what's it look like on that side of the world?
Interesting.
Just a thought.
Yeah, quit thinking. It's the weekend.
I'm going for a run.
Yeah.
I'm going outside. I'm going to go see if I can stay socially distant from 6 foot away from runners and anybody else that I can see. But I got to get outside. I'm going stir crazy.
It's about the only thing keeping me sane.
Yep.
All right, everybody. We appreciate it, and we will talk to you next week. Have a good one.
Stay safe.
Bye.
See ya. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
I'm a little manic.